Good evening. Good evening. I will now call to order the September 14, 2023 City of South Pasadena Library Board of Trustees meeting. Administrative Secretary Sean Fay, please call the roll.
Edward Pearson.
Here.
Kenneth Gross.
Here.
Bianca Richards.
Here.
Annie Chang Long.
Here.
Dean Serwin.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. In an effort to better manage the business on the agenda, general public comment will be limited to 30 minutes at the beginning of the agenda. If there are speakers remaining in the queue, they will be heard at the end of the meeting. If you would like to make general public comment for items not listed on the agenda and are under the purview of the Library Board of Trustees, please now raise your hand on Zoom or turn in a speaker card. Mr. Fay, let's give speakers a few seconds to raise their hand. Sean, do we have any speakers?
We do not.
Okay, so that was public comment, general non-agenda items. Item 1. I believe we can now move along to item 2. Excuse me, I did not finish my script. Mr. Fay, may I have a count of speakers for general public comment?
There are
can't list for in queue.
There are
okay.
no speakers for general comment.
I'm kind of messing with it. Fight power. We have presentations, so we'll move on to action discussion items if that's all right with everyone. Item 2 on our agenda: reordering of additions or deletions to the agenda. Does anyone have any reordering of additions or deletions to the agenda? Great. Hearing none, we will continue with the next item. Item 3, approval of minutes of the July 13, 2023 Library Board of Trustees meeting. The recommendation is it's recommended that the board review and consider approval of the July 13, 2023 meeting minutes. I'll note for the record that we did not meet in August. Do we have any public comment for this item?
We do not.
Before I call for a motion, I'm going to ask if anyone had any questions, comments, or concerns regarding the minutes.
Look good.
Can I get a motion, please?
To approve minutes. I second.
Did you get those, Sean?
Was that Annie made the motion and Bianca seconded?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Staff clerk, please take roll.
Edward Pearson.
Yes.
Kenneth Gross.
Yes.
Annie Chang Long.
Yes.
Bianca Richards.
Yes.
Dean Serwin.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes.
He didn't. We'll now move along to item 4, a request to close the library at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, October 31st, 2023 for Halloween. It is recommended that the board review and consider approval of the request to close the library at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, October 31st, 2023 for Halloween. Do we have any public comment for this item?
We do not.
Hearing none. Do we have any questions, comments, or concerns? Can I get a motion? I'll make this one. I'll move.
Who
Is that
seconded?
Kenny Gross?
Thank you, Kenny.
Yes. We have a motion and a second. Staff clerk, please take roll.
Edward Pearson.
Yes.
Kenneth Gross.
Yes.
Bianca Richards.
Yes.
Annie Chang Long.
Yes.
Dean Serwin.
Yes.
Motion
Can
passes.
we talk about this item, or were we supposed to talk about?
We were
the-
supposed to talk about that when I asked if we had any
You
questions.
can talk about it.
Oh,
now.
I thought you were talking about the public had any questions.
No, you can
Sorry,
talk about
sorry,
it.
sorry, sorry.
Do you have any questions?
No, I just have a couple of comments. I think this is a fabulous idea, being a former resident of this neighborhood. I think it's a great idea, though I personally, being a former neighbor of this neighborhood, is try to get the word out to the other neighbors, because what happens is trick-or-treaters come and they use the library as a bathroom. So if the neighbors know the library is closed at 6 p.m., because Diamond has a block party and they close off. So I mean, you
Is there like a
maybe
neighborhood watch? Like, who
remember
can
we
I
had a
tell?
neighborhood watch.
Yeah, I don't know who that is though.
Uh,
Like, who could I email? Do you
Well,
know?
I would say, yeah, I can get you some
Send
names
me who
and I
you
can
think
give
I
you,
should-
yeah, and
Put on next door.
So-
Sometimes announced.
so
We'll put it on next.
Would you
week.
like to make a friendly amendment to the motion? That we, ask staff to notify, the neighbors?
yes,
Not necessary.
Not necessary?
and again, who came up with this idea?
Staff.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, it's awful.
It's awful.
It's
That's
really
one thing I am not going to miss.
Yeah.
It's,
The motion will be
and it's
amended.
going to be even more awful because it's the 45th anniversary, I think, of the movie.
Oh.
And they're already expecting, because they contacted us, they're expecting,
Mhm.
Isn't every
Tour
year
buses.
an anniversary of the movie?
yeah, but this
Oh, is it
year.
the day
yeah,
of, same day?
But this
Tuesday?
year, because it's the 45th anniversary, they're having big tours come by again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good luck in 2028, and
Is that the 50th?
that'd be the 50th.
I'm not part of this anymore. But again, tell your staff, and I'll get you the neighbors' contacts.
That'd be great.
We'll move on from this frivolity back to our, scripted agenda. Item 5, request, oh, yes, I'm being a little precocious here. Item 5, request to open the library at 2 p.m. on Thursday, December 14, 2023 for city holiday luncheon, which is also an excellent idea. Do we have any public comment for this item? Okay, it's recommended that the board review and consider approval of the request to open the library at 2 p.m. on Thursday, December 14th, so that staff may attend the city-sponsored holiday event. I think it would be quite unfortunate if we didn't. I don't think that's fair to staff.
Can I ask, why do you have to open the library for them to?
Oh, no, it's opening late.
Open at 2 p.m. instead of 10 a.m.
Instead of 10 a.m. Oh.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I should have clarified that. The library will be opening 4 hours late so that staff may attend the holiday event that the city is
Oh,
sponsoring
okay.
for all
That's-
staff. I think that's only fair and reasonable. Can we, again, get out some type of advance notice that the library will be closing?
Yeah.
Okay, or opening late, I should say.
Right.
Does anyone else have any comments from the board? Can I get a motion, please?
I move to approve.
Can I get a second?
Second,
Can I get a witness? I'll stop. We have a motion and second. Staff clerk, please take roll.
Edward Pearson,
Yes.
Kenneth Gross,
Yes.
Bianca Richards,
yes,
Annie Chang Long,
Yes.
Dean Serwin.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes.
We'll move along to item 6 on our agenda, Library Administrative Policy Manual Update. Recommendation, it's recommended that the board review and adopt the amended library card policy. Before we move into this, I believe this is now getting us back to our long ongoing review, so I'm glad that we're doing that. Do we have any public comment for this item?
No public comment.
Hearing none, I would ask if we have any questions or comments from the board. We should
Can I-
probably review it.
Can I share a little information?
Please.
So it came to our attention, in the last week or so that there were people sharing on TikTok that South Pasadena, you can get a library card, online and use our resources. Like, so we suddenly were getting we didn't know, but we were getting lots of library card requests from like Sacramento and, all over the place.
So people are just wanting to use it, get
Yeah.
extra facility use
Yes.
of our online.
So we can't really afford to, host
Host
people. Yeah, exactly. So that was sort of what the impetus for taking this policy on. We had a different policy that we had intended to do for this meeting, but we decided we needed to do this. I mean, and as you know, as it says in the staff report, it hasn't been updated since 2006.
Mhm.
So, the main changes, again, the staff report outlines all of this, but kind of clarifying the eligibility requirements, specifying types of cards that are available, whether it's a card with full privileges or limited computer privileges, et cetera. that's pretty much it. We also are adding a little bit of specificity around teacher cards for educators. But otherwise, the changes are not, it looks like a lot of changes because the language was so old fashioned and strange. So we did a lot of rewriting, but it's in terms of the policy itself, the changes aren't that substantial.
I think this is important so that we're not utilizing, feeding our resources to someone in another part of the state unnecessarily. It does say, I'm a little confused by the eligibility language. Residents of South Pasadena who are confined to their home or a convalescent center due to illness, injury, or disability are eligible for permanent library cards. Great. How do they secure it if they can't come in person?
They'll contact us.
Okay.
Yeah.
If they're in a, would it be sufficient language, just confined to their homes? Because if they're in convalescent care or the other stuff, they're confined to their homes. Anyway, not that it matters that much, but, and then also, the people that don't have an address or don't apply in person can still get an online card. So like people in Sacramento aren't going to come here to use the library anyway, and it looks like they can still get a card, which I'm fine for online services. I didn't know if that would really address anything.
The type of card that they would get is a temporary card, which would limit the online resources they would have access to.
It provides access to select online resources and allows cardholder to borrow 2 physical items, expires after 3 months.
Oh, I thought we could have a regular online
The
one.
internet-only card allows cardholders to use public computers and access the library's online resources.
Do we care if they have online access?
Yeah, because we can't afford to pay for
Oh,
people in the state of
right,
California
right.
to watch Canopy.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I guess I'm a little confused how this manifests, because it still says that they can, it says to select online resources. Do we know what those resources are?
We do,
Should they be listed in the policy?
no, because it's gonna change all the time.
Okay.
My question is that, so let's say the 3 months expires, do you have something to prevent them to keep not just coming in every 3 months?
No, but we're not too concerned about it because the
Okay.
things that they're excited about accessing, that temporary card won't allow them
Okay.
to do ebooks and Canopy, which
Okay.
are the things we're concerned about. The databases, I mean, when we sign a licensing agreement with one of our, providers of data or, whatever the platform is, part of our pricing is based on our usage population. So in truth, even those things, we should be careful about letting everybody use. But the bottom line with that is that the usage of those is very low anyway. So we're not worried about those numbers ballooning. It's really around the ebooks and the audiobooks that we want to be available to our local users. And Canopy, which is very expensive. And clearly, we don't want to be paying for people to watch Canopy that are not local.
I hadn't heard about that. This has been publicized, but I had just had a discussion with a family member recently about how I have an LA card, I have a South Pass card, I have an Alhambra card, and they each allow different things.
Yeah.
Have we discussed this with the city attorney to make sure that this change is legal and doesn't violate any state law?
No, but there is really no state law there used to be, if you wanted to benefit from some of the state library funding, you had to issue cards to anyone, but that funding no longer exists.
And we're still saying we'll issue cards to anyone.
Yeah.
We're just saying you have to come here in person
That's
to
all
get
it
it.
is. Yeah, they just have to come in person. I think the only thing, and I think we're covering it, we borrowed some of this language from other libraries. The main thing was not to, the people who are disabled and can't come in person need to be able to get a regular library card. So that's the piece that I think is important to include, but.
Well, and that was my question is we include that, but we don't include any mechanism for that. So
Right, because that's procedural and that's could change, it could be, they need to call us, then maybe they need to email us. I mean, I think that this is a policy and then how we go about issuing those cards is procedural and people will figure it out.
Well, couldn't you just put in the language, like most language, you just put accommodations will be made for? Because then that's kind of general, because an accommodation could be a phone call, could be this, or accommodations can be made for residents of South Pasadena who are confined. I don't know, I
We
mean,
could change the
usually,
language.
usually that language accommodations, then that kind of is the umbrella term that, yeah,
I
You
would
need
ask,
to- you need
if
to
you want
talk.
me to change it like that, I'll go to the city attorney and
Yeah.
ask them what they wanted
I
to
think
say.
that that makes sense because what you're doing is you're segregating a class of individual and highlighting that they are eligible, but they're already eligible because they're a resident of the state of California. So, because if they're a resident of South Pass, they're a resident of California. So we don't need to say they're eligible because they're already eligible. So I think the issue is Bianca has raised is that that there's accommodation that will be made if they cannot come in person due to that. So that might be a better way to say it, is accommodation will be made on an individual basis for residents or for residents of California who are confined to their home.
Well, but
Well,
we
if
don't
we
want to
don't
give a
want
full
that,
card
yeah.
to a resident
Yeah.
from Sacramento that's
Right.
confined to their home.
Yeah, so residents of South Pasadena who are confined to their home. And I think that hopefully we won't run afoul of anything by limiting it to only South Pasadena residents.
You could be.
yeah.
Well,
There's always a
What, I mean, do we always have an address requirement? Because what about homeless that want to use?
they get an internet only card. If you look at,
Yeah.
Right, no, I saw, but I mean, are we allowed, can you have a requirement to have an address to use the library?
say that again?
Can you have a requirement that they have an address?
I don't think. we
No,
want
that
to
would
do
be,
that.
yeah, I
Well, we
mean,
do. I thought that's what this does. You have to have an address to get a full.
No.
you get
card.
full privileges. So
Right.
basically, if you don't have proof of address or proof of identity, you're
that-
not allowed to take out physical materials.
Well, then what if you have ID, but you don't have a permanent physical?
Then you're not allowed to check out materials. You can
Oh,
use-
that's what I'm saying. Are we
you
allowed to
can
do
use
that?
internet cards. You get an internet
But
card.
that would be for any of us.
Yeah, I mean, people,
If you're.
Right, I know, but we have addresses, and some people don't. I'm saying if you just don't have an address, but you want to take out a book from the library and you're South Pass.
You would.
Right, I know it says no, but I'm just saying, are we allowed to do that?
yeah, we're allowed to do that.
Yeah, because I think many times it say you have to have
Okay.
other,
We
you know,
have to
believe it or
protect
not,
our
some of
resources. We
some
can't-
of the unhoused do have, you know, addresses, PO boxes or whatever, where they receive their money or whatever. So if they came and showed that, you probably would have to,
Does it say residence address or just address?
just the address.
Okay.
I checked that because I thought it was resident, but it's just.
Well, because
address.
again, we're saying anyone can get a permanent card if they show up in.
If they
person,
show up in person, yeah.
right? So we're not gonna stop people in Alhambra. You
Right,
know.
or Sacramento, if they're able to get here in
Yeah.
person.
Do you know on the TikTok thing if South Pasadena was the only?
No, there were, the Southern California Digital Library, there were maybe, I actually don't know for sure, but I think there are probably a couple of other libraries in that consortium that we're part of that have the same, you know.
So we're consistent then with what other libraries then are doing?
Yeah.
Okay, then.
Okay,
So do you want to table this and have me go back and talk to the city attorney about the language?
well, I think that what we can do is if we can amend that, state that last sentence of eligibility
Maybe you could, move to approve it, with,
pending approval from the city attorney.
right, or
Yeah.
with language
That's what.
changes
Yeah.
requested by the city attorney or
Yeah.
something. That'd be great, because then we can
Yeah,
move
then we're gonna
forward
approve.
Yeah.
and not wait a whole month
Yeah.
to do it.
So, I would like to make a motion that we, request that staff consult with the city attorney regarding, an amendment to the final sentence of the eligibility section related to changing, instead of saying residents of South Pasadena are confined, saying that accommodations, can be made for, residents of South Pasadena who are confined. And
Well, let me
and
just make a
drop the are
friendly-
eligible.
Yeah, let's just I just want to make a friendly change on that. Why don't we, I think, let's just approve of it with
Right.
some edits.
Whatever change the city attorney
City
would
attorney
request.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think, okay. I
Yeah.
think accommodations open up a can of worms, because this sentence is broad enough to say you're gonna get your card.
Yeah.
Without requiring anything.
Well, but it says are eligible, and they're already eligible because they're a resident of California, so it doesn't.
Well,
make
no,
it-
they're
They're
eligible.
eligible to get a permanent card without coming in.
Right, but
They're-
it already says that, it doesn't say that. It doesn't say without coming in,
You're only eligible if you come in, so this is an exception to that.
but it doesn't say, I don't mean to over lawyer this,
Yeah.
but as a lawyer, this
Well, but
language would
if
not
you're
apply.
confined to your home, the implication is that you can't come in.
I don't like implications when it comes to legal
Well,
documents.
that's why accommodations is.
We'll see what the city
regularly.
attorney wants us to say.
Yeah.
And we'll just put what they
So then
recommend.
I move that we approve this policy with some added language that Kathy will kind of work with
City
the
attorney.
city attorney. Yeah.
I'll second that. Let me go back to my script. We have a motion and a second. Staff clerk, please take roll.
Edward Pearson,
Yes.
Kenneth Gross,
That's,
Annie Chang Long,
Yes.
Bianca Richards,
Yes.
Dean Serwin.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll now move along to item 7. Did everyone get a chance to review the supplemental materials that were provided by staff?
I think sorry, I have these out of order. Sorry. Yes, sorry.
So we're moving on to item 7, which is master plan project update, which was, if you did have a chance to look at it, it was a very good summary.
Was it in here?
Is it
Was it
here?
separate?
We have the strategic plan update at the end.
It should have a cover that says additional documents.
Master, well, we've got the master.
There it
plan.
is, there it is. I got it.
Is it at the end?
I got it. It's kind of in
Yeah,
the middle.
it's at the last few pages.
Yeah, it's kind of in the middle. So yeah, this is the staff report is to provide an update to you all about the master plan project and kind of where we are. And I know it came very late, so you probably haven't had time to look at it, so I thought we would just go over it. As everybody knows, the city council did approve $150,000 this fiscal year to help us launch this project. And just a little background, which is that, you know, we've been trying to do this for a long time. This is not new. And when we had a kickoff meeting a couple of weeks ago, I provided a lot of this information to the folks in that meeting, and it just really hit home for everyone that it's been like 20 years.
30
Us keep trying to do things, and you know, so there's a lot of excitement about, hey, let's actually get something done. Let's get it done. Basically, the kickoff meeting included the city manager, the deputy city manager, myself, and the directors of community development and public works. And we really were kind of getting from the city manager her vision and direction about how she sees this rolling out. And so I tried to capture a few of the things that came out of that meeting. First of all, the city manager is going to kind of deputize the deputy city manager to lead this for us. So that's helpful, I think. We talked about the interdepartmental team from multiple departments. So, you know, engineers, planners, somebody in public works who's in charge of sustainability, because if we're looking at a new building, you know, what are the lead building, you know, all of that kind of stuff. So a really great cross-section of people. From community services, our liaison and committee member will be Lucy Hakovian, who's the deputy director of community services. So that team is yet to be officially established, but that's on the to-do list. We talked about the project's objective. We kind of clarified that we really want to look at the whole site comprehensively and include the senior center and other types of uses, and make sure that we're
Excellent.
looking at it at that in that way. And then ultimately, we would be going to city council and asking them to establish a site planning advisory committee. which would probably have 2 council representatives, because of Brown Act stuff, 2 council representatives, 2 trustees, and then, you know, friends and, you know, other maybe members of the public that want to be involved, somebody like Sally, like that kind of thing, but we didn't go that far, because that's for the council to decide, so we would present this as a recommendation to council, that, you know, we recommend that you create this body, and that this body would have the following charge, so that piece of it is kind of to be, drafted and finalized, and then that team would be visiting libraries and doing all of that kind of stuff, which everyone would be welcome. So, you know, we would have the 2 members actually serving on the committee, but there's no reason that you all couldn't go when we visit libraries.
That's part of our
Yeah,
plan for the year.
yeah. So the city manager wants us to hold off on scheduling that until council has had the opportunity to give this direction, and you know, they've been recommended and to create this body, and then we would start looking at tours and visits and all of that stuff to include these other folks, which I think is a good idea. I mean, I think we're excited to go do that. I mean, it's exciting and we want to go do it, but I think it makes sense to have Janet Braun or whatever council members are selected.
And not have to replicate later.
Right.
Or
Right, and just, I think, to not get kind of too far ahead of ourselves. I mean, it's a long process, you know, that's one of the things, in the next steps. So the main thing to work on at this point is to get the, kind of the scope of work and the request for qualifications document drafted, so that we can actually go out and recruit a designer, planner, architect to do the master plan with us. So, Dominica is going to do the first draft of that, and then it'll come to me, so that we can kind of make sure has the library components there. I've reached out to a couple of other libraries to see if they can share RFPs that they put out for master planning, just to see what that language looks like. So that is on the table, and kind of pretty much we need to get that done in order to move forward. So that's top priority right now, I think. But also, as I said, kind of starting to think about what do we need to ask council to direction, you know, what direction do we need from council? So starting to put those staff reports together about an advisory committee, what their responsibilities would be, you know, when we're ready to do an awarded contract for the consultant that will do the master planning. So kind of getting those things ready. And then I think it's really important that we start now, not to publish yet for the public, but just start putting together kind of the timeline of what this might look like, what are the deliverables, kind of what is our messaging, you know, what's going to be on our website under library master plan project, you know, frequently asked questions, kind of starting to cobble that together. And I think that would probably be in some draft form that this body would look at and provide input and feedback. So that's kind of where we are. Getting the RFQ written so that we can actually go out and try to recruit, you know, the proposals and select someone.
Do we have a time horizon on this?
I need to check in with Dom. We met on the 23rd of August, so that's what, 3 weeks ago. To see, we did not set a timeline for that when we met, so I need to follow back up. I know that she was waiting for the public works director to send her some language from other professional services agreement RFQs that he has done. So he just sent that, I think, this week. So she has that now. So that was probably a little nudge to remind her that, oh yeah, I gotta work on that. But like I said, I'm trying to get some specific RFQs that other libraries have used to seek a master planning consultant. So I think that'll help her to draft something. She has that.
And Janet's not here, so we don't know how long it'll take council to get that onto their agenda.
I think that I don't know that we have to get permission from council to go out to bid to
No, I meant in
But-
terms of the other item of having council,
put together the committee.
yeah.
Yeah, I think once we drafted that RFQ and finalized it, I think we can move on to the committee at that point because everyone will be on the same page about here's in writing documented what we are doing. So I think we need that before we can do the committee. But I think as soon as we've done that, if the city manager thinks the timing is right, we would get the committee going sooner
Right,
rather
get it
than
on the
later.
agenda.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Anyway,
So do you think that the scope is this entire property, or is the scope what will happen with the library and senior services?
I
Like,
think
what's
it's the entire property. I think you almost have to look at the entire property to see, can we get any more square footage? And
Yeah.
so, I don't think there's any thought that, oh, we're gonna change the park dramatically, but maybe there's outdoor restrooms in the park. I don't know. But yeah, I think the idea is to look at the whole square. Look at
So
the
it wouldn't
whole
just
city
be
block.
on like the library's page, we would
Yeah,
probably
it'd probably
want to
be
be
on the
on
city.
senior and the cities. and-
It would probably live on city manager
Yeah.
pages, and then we would have links back to that.
the fundamentals that came out of the meeting were that the project objective was to look at redevelopment of the whole site, taking into account library, senior services, and recreation uses.
And that's why I was wondering, like,
Yeah.
so it's really beyond just us, so
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, we've been calling it library master plan and we kind of need to shift away from that. That hasn't really been, I don't know that discussion has probably happened behind the scenes with council members, but definitely when we met with them in May, when we had our joint meeting, the direction was to move forward with a library master plan. So we've sort of, fudged that a little bit. So and I'm sure that city manager has been talking to them, but yes, we need to kind of change our language and figure out
We've
what
been
this-
discussing it in these meetings, as a more of a community center.
Yeah.
Where that includes the library, the senior center, and potentially a teen and youth center.
Yeah, so then I would just say like be mindful of the language, because right now everything still says library master
Yeah.
plan and like how we're talking about the library page and everything and. the-
Maybe library
Points
park
together.
master plan would be the
Hmm.
simplest change, but
I
I think
think that
community
would
center works.
startle people. I don't know. I don't.
Yeah,
I've
the
had
minute-
people,
yeah.
what are you doing with the park?
Exactly.
I just had this conversation out in the Arroyo.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
Community
again,
center.
part of the reason I haven't consistently changed the language is because I'm not clear
Right.
on the city council and whether we need further direction from them to change our focus the way we all have decided that we want to. So as soon as I'll talk to the city manager about it and see if she thinks we can just start using that language everywhere. If
That'd
we
be
need to
great.
be more delicate.
Is it assumed then that the money from the bequest is not going to be used, would have to be wrapped into the library master plan?
That's the assumption that I am making. I don't think we would want to spend it and build anything in this facility if we're looking at the possibility of changing this
Would seem
facility.
an awful waste to.
No, I
spend
think it would, I
$2
think it would be a
million.
waste. I just didn't know with the specific terms of the bequest. I know there was no time limit, but
There's no time, and it doesn't. I'd have to look back at I think it was Article 7 of the will. Whether it said, whether it specifically references of the existing building or not. I believe it just required the building of a children's amphitheater to be called the story room.
Yeah. It's not
So-
specific to this building and
Yeah.
the city attorney, has verbally, said that as long as we are talking about it, making it a part of our plans, they don't think there's gonna be an issue. It's not like we're not acting on it. We're figuring out the
And
best
there is
way to
no- There
use
is
it.
no time,
Yeah.
requirement. It seems to make a lot of good sense if we do want to increase the scope, starting off with, well, we've got a couple million already.
Right,
So
Right,
it's earmarked, but we've at least got a couple of million.
right, to help us with.
Excellent. Do we have any more, comments, thoughts, concerns, regarding that? Excellent, summary, by the way. Jackie, thank you very much for that. If we have nothing else, we'll move on to item 8 on our agenda, which is also in that supplement, which is a master plan project update. regarding a strategic plan project update. Sorry, I read about 2023-2027 strategic plan, update.
Yep. I just wanted to give you all an update, kind of where we are. You know, we adopted the plan, you guys adopted it in February, council did it in May. So since May, we've been trying to find the time to kind of put action plans together and work plans together around some of these things and trying to prioritize, you know, what are we gonna do when? It's a 5-year plan, and you know, you look at it and basically want to do everything now, but it's just not possible. So trying to figure out how to spread the work out over those 5 years. So at the May meeting with council, we had already identified a list of priorities. So I've just provided some status updates. So the California State Library Critical Infrastructure Grant, we did apply for that. We submitted a grant, a project amount that was a little over $1 million. We were asking them for about $575,000. I learned recently that the state library received applications that totaled 500 million, and they only have about 170 million to fund. So it's a lot more competitive than I had hoped it would be. I think a lot of people were in our same boat, like the people who had the staff and the wherewithal and the support from their city, you know, bigger cities, basically, or bigger, you know, county libraries. Those folks got their applications in that first round. And so I think that was less competitive. So this is going to be more competitive for the
Now,
second round.
They weren't, anyone who was in the first round and funded couldn't be in the second round.
I
as
think
well?
they could, but they wouldn't get priority. They would not. Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, we're asking for a relatively small amount. Our library is very old, relative to other libraries in the region. I'm still hopeful that we have a good chance to get some of the funding. Maybe they won't fund because the projects are broken into separate, you know, pieces. So they may decide to fund the roof and the HVAC, but not the this or that.
So it is, severable.
Yes, they can split it up, like if they decide, we can't afford to give you all the money you've asked for, but we will give you this for this, this and this. And we're supposed to hear by the end of September, and I'm guessing it'll literally be the end of September, because I think, you know, they got so many applications, I'm sure they're struggling to get through them. So we'll see, still hopeful. If we don't get the funding, we still have to move forward with some of the things like the below grade leaking and things like that. So we'll just do what we can, even if we don't get the funding. RFP for the master site plan, we just talked about that, so you kind of know where we are with that, but it's moving, so that's a good status update. Library of Things, that's something that the public really wants, and they were very vocal about it in the survey. But when we sat down to put the work plan together for the support services kind of technology team, it just wasn't feasible to do it any sooner than the end of this fiscal year. So April, May, June. They have just finished. So the beginning of this fiscal year, they were working on our new acquisitions module implementation, and that took all of their time. Now that's completed, and there's still a little bit of time that needs to go into ongoing adjustments and tweaks and checking for accuracy, but that project is pretty much wrapped up. The next priority that they need to focus on is our contract with our computer reservation and public printing management is that contract that we have ends in January 2024. So we need to do some research, identify what other options are out there, and contract a new service or same service, whatever. We have to do the research and put out the RFP and decide who to go with. But this does have a public facing piece. Obviously, you know, we're looking at scanning, which is something the public has made clear that they want. So that'll be part of that. Then the other big project that we had hoped to start this year is RFID, which is our conversion to RFID. And we're going to start that in the new calendar year. And we hope to be able to complete kind of the vendor research, the RFP, and get the bidding process open and get the proposals and review them and make a selection and then contract to get the contract done this fiscal year and then kind of start the implementation next year.
Excellent.
So that's where that is on the, on their timeline. We have some other little things. These things are not necessarily all, strategic plan things. I mean, obviously we have lots of other things. Acquisitions module is not specifically called out in the strategic plan, but these are things that, we need to work on. And, one other thing that we're launching, as you may remember, that in the budget, we had asked for additional funding to get a package of consulting services from Circe Dynex, which is our ILS vendor. So we've kicked that off with them. We had a kickoff meeting with our consultant, and tomorrow is our first quarterly 2-hour what they call sure sailing call. So it's basically an opportunity for our staff to present to a really high level Circe consultant a long list of things that they need help with. They need some guidance. They need, how do I do this? Where should I look? What do you recommend? And it's really wide open. So that list, the staff prepared that list and they'll have this meeting tomorrow. So that's making a big difference for us in terms of a lot of the smaller projects that we need to get done. So for example, for a long time now, we've had a product called Mobile Staff, which is basically a web-based interface to our system. So we can go off site and check out books. We can go off site and make library cards, but it is not optimized at all. We need to do some work to make it work properly out in the field. So that's something that we're hoping that we can get some help with through this Platinum Services. So we're really excited about it. Barb is like a kid in a candy shop. She's like, I don't even know how to think about this. I've never had help. There's never been help. I just do it all. So very excited. That team is super excited. So that we're working on that one kind of as these other things go along to the extent that they can find time to do it. And then again, library things toward the end of the fiscal year. So hopefully we can launch it for summer reading program. And, kind of build some fun stuff in. We have a lot of cake pans in the collection, in the library things collection. So maybe we could do some, baking contests or whatever. We'll see.
Awesome.
So yeah, so that's an example of the work plan.
Maybe we could bring in someone who's written like a cookbook for kids to do a presentation and then have that be part of it.
Yeah,
She could
that'd be fun.
Check out all the pans.
check out all the pans, make your thing, bring them in, and you have this person come do the presentation and do like a judging of, oh, this is, no one wins, of course, if you don't want to have a winner.
Yeah.
Kids crying, but.
So operations is again one of our 4 categories that we have tasks divided into. So we are focusing on training and development goals for staff. This is sort of an ongoing process, but we're talking both about kind of the all staff type of training. Historically, we've usually closed for a day once a year. I asked the city manager if we could instead close 4 times for a half a day. And she wasn't comfortable with 4, so she said you can do 2, which is obviously the equivalent of a whole day. So we'll have like a 9 to 2 opportunities to do like a good chunk of time to do some all staff work. And then the supervisors are starting to really hone in on individual staff members. What are their goals? What are they, what professional development do they need? Where do they see themselves in 5 years? All of those kinds of conversations so that we can retain the good staff that we have. So we're working on that. And staff, if you'll see in the library operators updates, staff have already done some training. One of the things that we had prioritized was patron and staff satisfaction surveys. So the staff met and talked about the best timing for doing those types of surveys. And we decided that we would do the staff survey in January, in part so that we can have feedback in case we need to make any budget requests for the coming fiscal year. And we haven't decided when we'll do the patron satisfaction survey, the annual one, but we have the ongoing survey that Annie helped us develop previously that we present and people can participate in every time we have an event. So that's where that is.
Thank you again for that. Amy.
And radio frequency, we already talked about it when we talked about the work plan. And the other thing that we prioritized that was not discussed with council and you on May 3rd is putting together a committee that's kind of our equity, diversity, inclusion efforts. You know, we did some all-staff training. We were doing sort of some exercises to kind of keep people thinking about these issues. I was doing that and I just can't, I just can't do it. I can't keep it up. So staff had the brilliant idea of let's put together a staff-led committee and we'll do it. So that's what's gonna happen. They're gonna put together a committee and they will be responsible, committee members will be responsible for putting together some kind of activities for staff to get them thinking about these issues on a monthly basis. Like as an example of what an activity would be. So for example, I had asked staff to read a little article and then talk about a book or a movie or something they had seen or read that caused them to think about, I don't know, inclusion or something. I mean, it was specific, but I don't remember what it was. So little things like that, read this article, watch this little video. What do you think about this?
Mindset kind of thing.
Yeah, just again, I think that for us, this kind of inbred in library and ship is this freedom to read. And I think this is a piece of that we're trying to just keep in the fore of people's minds. And it's just little reminders and thinking about it. And then anything we can ask that same committee to take on, research of other topics. The example I gave here was the idea of developing a land acknowledgement statement where before a program you talk about the indigenous peoples whose land this is, and you recognize that when you do a program. I think that's something that the library could maybe take the lead on and then take it to the city level, because I don't think the city would have us doing it independently. I mean, I think the city has to adopt such a thing. So yeah, we'll probably try to get that moving and help the city move in that direction.
Yeah, we do that. I think I sent you that thing on land
Yeah.
acknowledgement, because you have to also be very careful
Right.
about land acknowledgement as a non-native, doing it. Some tribes say it's okay, others do not feel it's appropriate.
I think that there's,
But if it's just a statement.
yeah,
then it's okay.
and I mean, I watched a video, a nice lecture series from USC, and a Tonga tribal leader talked about, that it's a baby step. Like it can be performative and maybe meaningless, but it depends on how you do it. And it is, if you have genuine,
Empathy.
yeah, and you really believe this, then you're bringing to it something genuine versus just reading something, So I think
Like a
that,
script.
yeah, like a script. Yeah. So that's saying, for example, again, this committee might work on something like that. They might work on a survey for staff about what they think about, how are we doing here in terms of diversity and equity in staffing and stuff like that. So that is where we stand on the strategic plan. We still have to kind of get the website up to date, capture this in a form that we can share with the public. And that's on my to-do list.
I thank you for that report. I'm very heartened to hear that when you didn't, and I'm not surprised you didn't have the time to spearhead the idea on your own, that staff stepped up and said, no, this is important to us and we want to do it.
Yeah,
That's
it was
really
great.
wonderful to hear from us.
And I'm glad they felt like they could do that, that they weren't like, well, is it gonna offend Father Kathy?
You've established a culture that allows them that kind of autonomy and agency, so that's important. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Well, not to keep your jaw wagging, but we're moving on to item 9, which is the library operations update.
Yeah, so maybe I'll talk at this point about the changes you're seeing in your packet and whatnot. So the city clerk's office, management services, and the city clerk's office has been holding some meetings with all of the commission and board liaisons, so Sean and myself, and for every other commission, their staff, and kind of talking about processes and who's doing what and how people do things. And out of that has come some directives about trying to be consistent across the board so that, you know, one group isn't doing one thing. So for example, I have to write a staff report for usually, you know, like usually if we were asking you to close, I would just come in and say, we need to close, here's why. And then you vote, and then Sean, you know, captures all that in the minutes. So this is the opposite. We capture it up front, and then you don't have to put it in minutes because we already published it. And that's a piece of it that we'll find out more about, but there may be a directive to move a little bit more toward very action item oriented minutes, which I know is not popular with all committees. So we'll see where that goes. But in the meantime, you'll notice this difference. So there'll be, even if it's brief, I mean, even if it's just, if I write like a little bit, there'll be something that's kind of, you know, a cover sheet. And the reason that the additional docs were so late was because this just takes a lot more time.
I was just gonna say, this is a
It
lot
was
of.
very kind of them to give you more upfront work.
Well, and it's interesting because I think we are a lot more casual. In this meeting, I was like, we don't do any of that. You know, they're like, you have to do this and this. I'm like, we don't do any.
But what was the reasoning for it if it works for us, and but why does it matter? We don't interact with any of the other.
No, but
anyway.
you know, you're a Brown Act body, so you're subject to the Brown Act. And
I can understand, I can understand. the reason.
yeah, I think that, again, like, we don't get a lot of scrutiny, we don't get a lot of public comments, so it's easy for us to kind of just do our own thing, but I think that, as the Brown Act body appointed by the council.
In the world that we live in currently, where someone gets a wild hair and decides, I'm gonna look at that. It's a good idea that all committees and commissions within the body of the city have a standardization process so that there isn't someone who goes, why do they do this differently? And then could create a whole thing where none exists. We do it differently because, well, we're slightly different. We have a slightly different remit. We're a little more lackadaisical or casual in our dialogue. But that could offend someone. So rather than find a problem that exists when it doesn't exist, let's just not have the problem exist at all. I was joking about the script, but I think it makes sense.
Well, in the script, so that's something they do as a benefit, like, so the mayor gets a script, they know who to call up to the podium, they know, I mean, our meetings are not that complicated, but his script has a lot of information in it, and he couldn't, you know, they need that help.
I actually thought of that when I read the script earlier this afternoon, and I thought, oh, yeah, John reads a script every meeting.
Yeah.
He does a
So you
good
have a
job.
script writer now.
Yeah, you have a scriptwriter?
Yeah.
I mean, the script is pretty minimal, it's just, you know, for us.
I don't want to get into whether or not this violates WGA
I
or
was
not,
gonna say,
but,
I
So then
don't,
that covers the refreshments and then the packaging.
yes, your new name tags
Or name tag.
match the council name tag.
that's right. Thank you. I want to
And you-
acknowledge Ed and Andy for remembering their shirts. I need to, I'm gonna
Gee, man.
put it in my calendar going forward to put on the show.
Yeah, so again, and they want,
No, I don't work.
there's also.
We have the integrity.
Right, we do have name
Yeah.
tags.
We have that, not on the shirt.
They also talked about too, you know, the consistency. So one commissioner is like, well, we don't get that. Why do they get that? Like,
Mhm.
you know, being welcoming, having some snacks for people, having some water, like treat
So there's
people with-
snacks?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's snacks now. Treat these folks that are volunteering their time for the city with some respect and do it across the board.
And I think if people are coming in for public comment, it's especially during the summer when it's, you know, uncomfortably warm sometimes, having water. I like that they've sourced water that is a little bit more ecologically sound.
Yeah, that's what I found, I
Oh,
don't, I
so
won't.
you have to purchase it. So they didn't have it at the city council meetings, do they?
I know,
What that-
Do they have snacks at the city?
Oh, yeah, they have
They do.
snacks at the city.
Yeah.
council.
I said
odd.
it that very
All
long other
snacks.
one and I was
Not for,
starving.
not for
Not for
the
us.
public.
Oh, not
but
for the public,
people on the
okay.
diet.
I think they should have it for us in there. Those are long meetings if we sit in there.
I've been to
We
ones
go to
where
the
they
gas
snack.
station, like on breaks and get our
Oh,
staff go to the gas station, get snacks, but yeah, they have snacks for
for them.
them,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Mhm.
So
I
that's,
never even had dinner.
what's that?
Never even had dinner.
No, I think now they're.
Oh, they
starting-
do. I mean, they went from like.
Yeah.
Till
Different
2
people
a.m.
have,
with
different
their
council
dinner.
members have strong feelings about whether it's appropriate or not to
Yeah.
feed them and they figured that stuff out. So that's a library operations update. That's not in the staff report, but I wanted to share that with you. I figured you would notice that things are looking a little bit different. The other thing that about this, that the management services director pointed out is that there's a lot of risk and liability around minutes because are you, when you're doing those, putting in something that wasn't really the intent or, whereas if you've written it in advance, it's safer than trying to capture something that is maybe subtle or it's just better not to
Our
take.
meetings are relatively short, but some committee meetings are 3, 4, 5 hours
Yeah.
from time to time, and trying to coalesce that down into 2
Right.
or 3 pages of minutes. I could see where that would be an issue. So I think this makes a lot of sense to pregame so you have a standard, everybody knows what was discussed and
Right.
why.
Right, and then the minutes are just couple of things people may have said or any direction that was given to
vote.
staff. Right, exactly. So the rest of this report, as I described here, we have to provide little updates for the city council's weekly update. And it occurred to me that we're going through a lot of time and effort to do that, and why don't I use those for you guys and use them for the friends,
Friends,
so
yeah.
that, rather than coming in here and, going on and on about all the things that are happening. So that's my intent. If you guys like that idea, that I would just include those updates for you to look at your
I
leisure.
think that's handy, because that way
Yeah.
we have it to refer back to.
Well, and you could also, if you would like, I can email them to you weekly. So we do usually 2 or 3 or 4 a week. So if you are interested in getting them by email instead of in a big giant chunk where you've got 20,
You do that many reports a week.
they're just little, they're just these little guys.
Like every time you do something, though, you're basically.
Well, it's been a struggle,
She does that in home now too.
it would be like, we have to do something. And so I put together a schedule and I just make, I just fill it out. So I think of something, oh yeah, Maida is emailed me or copied me on email about a Dia de los Muertos thing that she's doing with the schools, and I was like, put that in the schedule. So, it's great. I mean, we do so much and nobody really knows, so it's actually really great. And having this, planning document helps us make sure we're really showing off what we're doing.
I'm on not on a new board, but the new term of in a new position, and the new president is doing the exact same thing. So I have like a little chart that I was on 20 Zooms, and this, I went and did training here and there, because we live in silos, kind of the other committee members or commission members.
Right.
And so now it's in our monthly report, so we can read exactly how much time we are spending and what we're doing.
Right.
I love this idea, and I, for one, would like to receive these, on
I
a
would
weekly
too.
basis, because that way, again, if it'll trigger something, and then maybe a week, a month, 2 months later, something will trigger, and I'll go, wait a minute, I know I've seen that, and it's a lot easier to go back into an email folder than
Right.
it is to
Yeah.
call you up and say, hey,
What was
didn't we
that?
talk about this a while ago?
And I can, continue to include it here for the benefit of the public. But yeah, I'm happy to just shoot you guys email. You can read them, not read them. It's easy enough for me to do that.
Scan or peruse at your choice.
Yeah, so there's lots of different things that we were highlighting, summer reading program, I think we've already talked about that a little bit. Is successful, we got some good, almost all the feedback from our survey was very positive. We're still struggling with the online tracking versus the paper tracking, we may go back to purely paper tracking next year. Get some different feedback about that, people who like it, people who don't, but it seems like on the whole, people maybe are more into the paper. Calling out that the Friends gave us funding for some diverse collections, so making council aware that that's happening. It's sort of just an advertising opportunity, to kind of help people know what we're doing. A couple of staff members participating in some supervisory preparation training. We're really excited. We got Olivia and Alexis applied for a grant. They got $22,470 to do.
I'm sorry, $22,470.
Yeah.
And not 97 cents?
Well, actually, I don't know if it has cents. No, I think it's probably a round number. So that is it's a sustainability focused grant, and people are doing different things with it, but we're going to be doing a seed library, which is basically an old card catalog with seed packets, and people can take whatever they want.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Can people put seeds in too?
Mhm. They can put seeds in, and there's partnering with the community garden, partnering with South Pass Beautiful. There's lots of kind of community relationships around this. We'll have a series of talks and lots of we have a lot of money, so probably we'll end up adding a number of materials that we buy to do the programs back into the collection. So a nice boost to our collection related to, gardening, native landscaping, whatever.
Perhaps that could be utilized for the library of things.
Yes. Yep. Yes.
And this could be part of that augmentation, having the
Right.
seed bank, seed library
Right.
is part of that.
Yeah,
library.
it is. I mean, kind of, it'll be a piece of that. We had our last book to art program of the year. That's our book discussion group where people discuss and do some kind of a hands-on craft or art activity that relates to the book. This is something we have to think about, book groups in general. You're putting a lot of work into preparing those and putting them on, and you're probably doing it for the same 5-10 people.
How many people came to this?
Not very many. I think, were you there? Did you go?
Not this one.
Yeah,
I went to
5,
before.
6.
It's sad, it's such a fantastic.
And I went to the one before and I was the only person.
Wow.
Yeah, people
With
were
Alex.
interested in that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll see if this continues. I know the staff would really like to do like a traditional book group, but Nate and I are not convinced that it's a good use of their time. And in my experience, other libraries oftentimes, the library supports it, but a volunteer, the same way we do our English as a second language conversation groups, like it's our program, but a volunteer does the leading.
Oh, it looked like this IRL event was very well attended.
The Institute for the Redesign of Learning, yes, so this is a program that Olivia originated. Basically these students or individuals, I guess they're not necessarily students, but they would visit the library and make it a little field trip, and they would come and they would kind of look around and look at books and poke around, and we were like, we really should probably, give them something, let's make a program that engages them. So, yeah, so it's fun. The people have really enjoyed it. It's a lot of attendees. So we have, I think we have one more, and then we're taking a couple months off, at partly their request and maybe partly our schedule. But it's really great, and it's open to the public. It's not just, initially we kind of piloted with the Institute for the Redesign of Learning folks, but we recently put out, information that makes it available to anyone who has developmental disabilities, any adults. We are working on a program for kind of early literacy. Our part-time children's librarian, Cindy Finder, who was a school teacher for many years, this is her area of expertise. So she's really been working on our parent-teacher collection, those resource materials for parents and teachers. And she's putting together some workshops for caregivers for early childhood, you know, like preschoolers. And so those will be offered. No, I think that I don't know when she's offering it, but it's coming. So we're excited about that because that's an important group for us.
Half our visitors are
Yeah.
children.
Just a blurb that Sean put together for us about community room use, that we're basically back to pre-pandemic levels. And related to that, we have brought on a part-time clerk in the admin office. He's someone who we promoted from an aide position, and he's been working with us for probably about a month now, and he's really great. So that's a big help as these community room rentals take more and more time to have some extra help for that.
How does that fees now? I mean, I didn't know we made that much in fees. How does that compare to other years, pre-pandemic years? Is that a good number?
Yeah, that's a pretty
I
good
thought
number.
it was good.
Yeah, it's a pretty good number. The fees went up
Went up, yeah.
substantially in like 2018.
18 or 19.
Yeah. So I would have to go back and, you know, kind of look at what it's been over time, but definitely, I mean, during COVID, you know, it was basically we were getting nothing. So, yeah, it's going along, working well. We already talked about the infrastructure grant, memory lab program, which was a grant funded project that, we're still offering. People can come in and convert their,
Is that Olivia also who got that?
Olivia applied for that grant. Yeah.
She is our grant maven, isn't she?
Yeah, these are, you know, the state library has these kind of low dollar amount opportunities. You just need people who have the time. The applications aren't even that
Inclination,
hard, you know, it's just somebody has to have the time, and also we have to make sure that we can do whatever it is that we get funding for. So, yeah, so Alexis and Olivia together applied for the quote unquote, so South Pasadena. Back to school activity. We've got all of the, I think, Marengo first graders coming in October to have library visits. Nada was at the PTA council meeting this week to try to, you know, share information with them. Working with the high school English department chair to make sure that we have the reading lists and that we can make sure we have the collections that people need. So doing lots of outreach with the schools, which we always do, but it's a challenge this year because we do not have a children's librarian right now. So trying to keep that, you know, moving, even though we're short-staffed. We are presenting this Saturday a program on the dangers of fentanyl, and it's a partnership we're doing with Huntington Health. I have no idea if people will attend. They really wanted to do it here. We sent it to the schools.
They reached out to the library. I was curious about.
They did. I have a feeling that they have probably grant money and they have to do a certain number of presentations, and they don't, you know, if nobody comes, they get to still check off that they did it.
Right.
But we're trying to get people, we'll see. And it was interesting because we, like last week, South Pasadena Review had a whole like 2-page article about fentanyl and the local. I was like,
Yes, but
I was
yeah,
like,
there's
well, it
their
would have been
son.
nice if they had, you know, oh, and there's also this program happening. So, but they didn't. But
That article said there were 3 South Pasadena people who died in the last whatever it was.
yeah. So we'll see how that goes. That's this weekend. And then story time is back in session. And I did want to share something that was in the weekly update to council, but not by our department, which is that Sean was asked to participate in these a panel at the Municipal Managers Association of Southern California conference. So it was related to the Commissioners Congress. Somebody attended Commissioners Congress or heard about Commissioners Congress and thought, what a great idea, and talked to the city manager. So basically, they had a panel that included Sean as a representative of someone who works with the commission, Mary Jaragian, who's in the city manager's office, Cameron Binns, who's in the city manager's office, Louis Frausto, who's the management services director. We're on a panel that was really well attended, and was great. It was a great opportunity for Sean to do something different than what he normally does. And I have even a little picture of the panelists.
Sounds great.
Good job, Sean.
Yeah.
Well done, Sean.
You, Sean.
And I don't think I have anything else. We've submitted our funding request to the Friends
Yeah,
for
that's in my
fiscal year
report.
2024. Yeah, I think that's all I've got. If there's anything that I'm forgetting, well.
Well, you'll
catch
have
it
an
next.
opportunity in a moment
Exactly.
as well. So thank you for that, very informative. We're gonna move on to communications. Item 10, Board President Communications. We've kind of said a lot about this, somewhat farcical and somewhat serious about the standardization of our meeting format and our meeting materials to be consistent with other the other committees, commissions. And I think that it's a good idea, and I will try to be a little bit more serious about it going forward. Not entirely serious about it going forward, but somewhat more.
Well, I mean, really, it's not, you don't, I mean, it's really meant to be a tool for people who don't know what to say.
I know, that's why I was
Like, if you already know what
kind of
to
goofing
say,
on it a
you
little
don't,
bit.
you know, you don't have to read it, but.
But I think it's a good idea. And what I'd like to say is, I appreciate that the Library Board of Trustees, which has a separate name than other commissions, is being considered as part of the fold of all the commissions, as opposed to, well, that different thing that the library does. So I appreciate being part of the city. And with that, I will move on to board member communications. Who would like to go first? I usually designate Bianca as our vice president, but if someone else would like to go first, they may.
I have no comments, so.
Make that easy.
Penny,
No script, I guess, for this?
you don't get a script.
Yeah, I was gonna comment on the new formality. It's fine. Seems a little Stepford Wives-ish to me. I'm probably dating myself with that. But yeah, I guess whatever makes it easier. I mean, that's my only concern. That it's no more work for you, some of the things that you'll be doing, as long as it's no problem complying, if that's the right word. I mean, no problem doing it this way, as long as it doesn't create any more work for you.
I mean, it was more work, but I do think it will get easier, and it's kind of more work on the front end for me,
Yeah.
maybe less work on the back end for Sean with the minutes, so maybe Sean can help me on the front end if he's not spending so much time on the minutes on the back end. So I'm hoping it'll all
Wink,
kind of,
wink, nudge, nudge.
yeah, like I'm hoping it'll balance out, and it's okay, like it's fine. I mean, again, we should be as professional as other commissions.
I would like to once more comment with enthusiasm on the job you did.
Thank you.
Does anyone else like to comment, Ed or Annie?
No comment.
It's just plus one, I know it's extra effort, even the snacks, which I don't know, for some reason I thought maybe city
I thought the
council
city
brought
did
it to
that,
you,
yeah.
so.
No, they said,
We appreciate.
feed your commissioners.
Okay.
Don't worry
Will
about
do.
feeding me.
I'll take
I
some
do.
time and you're very busy schedule, so we appreciate it.
Thank
You and Sean.
Well, thank you. Item 12, City Council Liaison Communications. We're gonna move on to City Council. Do you have anything you'd like to share?
I'm sorry, one moment. Did Ed say something? Did Ed have a
Ed
comment?
had no say.
Okay, thank you.
Ed had no. Our City Council Liaison, I notified us earlier that she was unable to, unfortunately, join us. I would love to move on to our friends.
The Friends, hey.
Yes, do you have anything you'd like to share?
I
It's been
do.
Quite a while since you've been
I
here.
have, I know, a lot of meetings when it's the start of a new term, and it's in Sacramento, so I couldn't attend. But, yes, so we had our retreat on August 24th, and we, used the home of Teresa Maria Molina at I call it the Gill, that's the Miltmore House. So we really had a full house, only 3 of them could not attend. Kathy came for a little bit, and then we had another member of the Restoration Concerts there. So it was a big group. And so we had really great discussions, and we got a lot accomplished. So I'm just gonna give you a little brief summary what we did. So every year we review the mission statement, but we hadn't changed it since around 2016. So we made some slight changes, and that will be presented at the next meeting. I don't have the minutes yet, so I don't have the exact wording. So then also our bylaws and standing rules are usually reviewed at that time, but due to somebody going out of the country, we are going to review them within the month of September, and then if there's any changes, present them in October. So the audit, which we hadn't done for a while because our last CFO kind of just left the country, and so that has now been completed and in very detail for all the accounts. I mean, with a fine tooth comb. Spent months kind of doing it. So that was it's going to be presented at the September meeting. And then we had a really good discussion about communications and policies. We really want to make it pretty clear that the Friends is one brand. So we have some committees under us that kind of wanted to go off on their own and have their own Facebook page, have their own Instagram. We have a very young person who's handling our communications, and she knows how to do it, how to make sure that with the Instagram that they are tagged, and we're now asking for all musicians to send their Instagram tag so that we can build that community. So it was a pretty good discussion at the retreat, and I'll report later on other things. And so that, yeah, we're going to be promoting everything via the Friends social media and not individually. We also voted to investigate a new cost of a website. So we are going to develop a new, we tried with Jericho Road, and it just is not a great user-friendly website. So at the September meeting, hopefully that report will be coming. An update on that Steinway piano is that the restoration concerts have to sell it. They haven't really had any luck. So the Friends are going to start helping with that task. We're going to have it in the newsletter. We're going to put things out if we can on other social media, maybe a news article in the paper. So we volunteered to help with that. I know that you had mentioned one time.
Yeah, and do you know Ed Donnelly?
Yeah, very well.
Yeah, so hit up Ed.
Okay, I will. Well, thank you. Yeah, so it's not moving for them. So we just
Not for him to buy it.
no, but we
he
may have
knows.
the, yes, because it's a beautiful piano and it's just not concert ready, but for a family and to have something maybe as a statement piece
Mhm.
at home, that was one of the conversations that came out of the retreat that they hadn't thought about.
Yeah, like a hotel lobby.
Right,
something.
something, yes. So again, we discussed about board development, and the board just really felt right now that we didn't need to do it. They feel that we're working okay, and that we just need to think about our nominating committee. But Roseanne also now has a friend who wants to join, and she's a young girl, and I know her husband. She's not from South Pass, but all 4 of the boys went to South Pasadena. So this is great to have these younger people on our board. We did discuss the 21st Century Committee, and right now it's on hold after Kathy presented that we need to wait for what's happening with the master plan. So I will send a notice out. I'll reach out to Sally to see who you had maybe said would like to be on the committee. So we're just, so you know, that we haven't forgot it. We were discussing it, and so that's that. The restoration concerts are opening their season, much to your like, on September 24th, and they have a concert featuring Cindy Lamb with the piano, and Nathan Cole, who's on the violin. And the series available for $136 for 8 concerts and $25 at the door. And they're always wonderful concerts. So our newsletter went out again in September, and it's always really pretty, and you know, it's full of news. And I have to really give a shout out to Roseanne, who I keep talking about, who was in Ireland, in Europe, with her husband whose father passed away, and they were scattering his remains. So how dedicated is this that she got it out and completed it, even with Spectrum that was out throughout the whole city and people couldn't get
They're
her.
an amazing family.
They are, and we are, yes, it's Chris Maines, if anybody.
No, Chris is wonderful, and he has a very striking beard, I'll add. Too.
Yes, so it's his wife.
Oh, his wife?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's on the Turner Roses.
Yeah, he's on everything. I
He's
recruit.
on the
Yeah.
Oneonta board.
They really want to be involved, and I recruited her at a preservation foundation the at the Molina home. I'm just always talking about library. So anyway, I wanted to give you like, some stats. So we have grown over the past year. We sent out 774, emails with the newsletter in it. And we went from a 55% open rate, we are at 65.1%, which the industry standard for nonprofits is 39.41. So it just keeps growing. So it's really high. It's really high for our open rate. So I'm really excited about that. On another note, our membership is down about half from what it was last year. I think everybody was coming off the pandemic. Maybe they felt really generous. But we sent out a postcard saying that, we miss you if you hadn't joined, and some membership has come in there. But like always, if you haven't joined and you're not a member, hope that you will support the Friends and always spread the good word about the Friends and what we help supply for the library. So as you mentioned, we had it was a really busy week for me. I had restoration concerts, I had a budget committee, I have this, so we had a budget and finance committee meeting, which was very in-depth and long. So I think she may have already reached out to you with what we've discussed. And then I had an in-person after the retreat, a communications meeting with the restoration concerts. And Kathy and I are meeting next Monday with the restoration concert team again. So that's kind of my report. It's been busy.
Thank you. We
You're
missed
welcome.
having you here,
Oh,
although you did send some very competent.
I know.
subs.
They're great. You met Kim Holman, who's one of our new members.
It's been a minute.
So thank you for letting me be here.
So, we haven't heard much from library staff, and our library director at this meeting.
I have two things that I thought of that I wanted to tell you.
So
One
I'm
is
sorry,
that the
I'm sorry to
first-
interrupt. Are we doing the trustee liaison to the Friends?
I have no comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Thank you.
That was my fault. I
Because it
skipped
was a
over
retreat.
you.
That's right. Yeah, there's no comments because I didn't go to the meeting because it was the retreat.
It was a retreat.
Right.
So,
I sort of, glossed that one over because I
Yeah.
knew you had
Yeah.
nothing.
Wasn't on the screen.
One off it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Item 15, pass.
So we have our first round of interviews for the children's librarian position next week. So keep your fingers crossed
Yeah.
that we get some good people in that pool. There are some good candidates. There are some people that I said, if we think they're, even if maybe they're not as experienced, let's just keep an open mind, right? Let's keep an open mind. So we'll see what we get. We're hopeful that we'll get some good candidates. And then I wanted to also let you know that Library Journal, which is a professional journal in the library field, but they also do a lot of training and other kinds of stuff. They do something every year called the Design Institute. And it's basically, they bring in architects and interior designers and they hold it at a place where there's a brand new library facility. And then they do some tours at new facilities, and then they do some different sessions like, how do you get funding, or how do you make sure your building is what the community needs, et cetera. So I'm gonna go to that this year, which is in
Sounds
September.
absolutely perfect and on point.
Yeah, I've never been before, but the timing is right. So hopefully I'll have some good information
Is it national or just California?
It's national. Last year it was in Colorado and this year it's in Hayward. So it's easy for
Looking
me to
more
go.
convenient.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for doing that, because
Yeah.
as we've commented, everything keeps getting added to your plate. So I'm very grateful to you for your dedication to our
Yeah.
library.
Well, it should be interesting and I look forward to being able to share whatever I learn with you guys.
Excellent. Well, this is has this been on here before and I'm just not remembering it? Public comment
Oh,
continued?
yeah, so, which is, initially I said, oh, take that off, we never have public comment, but that's the standard that they do
Okay.
at council, so we just skip
Well,
it,
we
there
have
is no public
continued,
comment.
I've got a script, lady.
Mhm.
Continued public comment, so if we have, in future, and now that we're becoming more standardized and people might notice us a little bit more, especially when we start talking about, the
Mhm.
site,
Exactly, we might
site
get
plan,
comment.
we might start getting a lot of people coming in. So for future reference, because at the beginning, we said we're gonna limit it to 30 minutes. If we have more than 30 minutes and they're willing to stick around, we will, have them, have that availability because we don't want to tell anyone they can't speak.
Yeah.
So, with that, since we have none, with no further items or comments from staff and or board members.
One more comment. Do we know anything more about Michael Toman? Is there gonna be a service? Are we
I
at
haven't
the
been able to
library?
Oh,
find,
right.
I haven't been able to find out,
Okay. Either has Ron or.
oh, he hasn't had any luck either.
Yeah.
I need to, I'll follow up with, so for those who don't know, Michael Tillman was a longtime reference librarian here and he local resident, and he passed away. So I met him, but he had already retired by the time I started. So yeah, he has a sister, but I do not know what's happening.
Okay.
So I'll have to try to find out. I bought a sympathy card, but don't know what to do with it, so I'll see what I can find out.
Thank you for that, Bianca. So with no further comments or items from staff or board members, I will now adjourn the meeting at 8:28 p.m. To our next meeting on October 12th, 2023 at 7 p.m. Thank you and have a nice evening. And by the way, just for your own reference, I know we're always the second Thursday, but the dates for the rest of the year are on our agenda as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.